Pain's my biggest problem.
Yeah.
I don't sleep well at night.
Yeah.
It's getting better. At least I keep telling that to myself. But it's still strong. And I just don't know what to do.
Well, we like this topic because it's really everything that we've been talking about already today, which is when energy flows and is hindered, it causes pain. In the same way that when energy flows and it is hindered, it causes negative emotion. So when there is a desire that you're moving in the direction of, then you don't even have to catch up with it. You just have to be moving in the direction of it. Your belief doesn't even have to be moving as fast as your desire is, just moving in the direction of it, and then there's not resistance. But if your belief is doubt, and we're not talking about it being on the subject of the physical discomfort, we're talking about it being about anything. Well, the thing is, it's hard for most people when they've got something they're really working on, like a relationship or a physical condition or a new project. It's hard not to give it a lot more attention than it really needs. And often the attention that you give it works against you rather than for you. So when you start thinking about everything being about energy flowing, and you especially think about your physical apparatus being a vessel that flows energy, and you realize that your thoughts are what really matter, because your thoughts are the gateways to whether the energy is being allowed to flow in the direction of your desires. So here's what we would do if we were in your physical body with you and feeling the physical discomfort. We would say to ourselves, this means help's on the way. Because what it means is, Source is calling and you're just not going. If you could relax into it, give in to the pain, rather than resisting it, rather than thinking that it means something's wrong, instead say, it's an indicator that's helping me. And if I can just relax into it. For example, let's say that there are 10 thoughts that you might be thinking about, 10 important subjects in your life, and half of them feel pretty satisfying when you think about them, and the other half don't. Well, with a little bit of meditation, you'll find it easier and easier to approach the subjects that feel most satisfying. It's sort of like when you sit in front of your television, you know the programs that please you and you know the ones that don't. And you don't have a lot of difficulty making the choices in that. So, relative to your physical body, if you could think about how your inner being has summoned all cooperative components and is actually calling the consciousness of your cells into well-being. And if your inner being were not, by your request, calling the consciousness of your cells into their new becoming, if that weren't happening, you'd feel no pain. So 2 things would stop the pain. If you weren't asking for improvement, which is your inner being calling it, or if you weren't resisting the improvement that is being called for. So that's why we say, if you can relax into it, see it as a good sign. Oh, this means help's on the way. This means my cells are awake and alert and moving toward. This is not a bad thing. This is a good thing. So that you're not tensing against it and wishing it would go away. You're actually relaxing into it and just letting it be. We're not asking you to get rid of negative emotion. We're just asking you to think thoughts where negative emotion doesn't apply. We're just asking you to change the direction of your thought, and we know the negative emotion will go away. And we're just asking you to change the direction of your thought, and we know the pain will go away. This is law of attraction, universe. It's law of inclusion. There's no law of exclusion. So you can't push anything away. So when you think about the things you don't want, and you try to push them away, they don't go away, they just get bigger. So now we want to say to you, it's not your thoughts about your body that are the reason for your pain. It's your thoughts about things that you're worried about. It's the things you worry about. It's the unsatisfying thoughts you have. And most of them, you would be shocked to realize how really insignificant in the scope of your life they really are. People make mountains out of molehills. You make big deals out of things that aren't big deals. And part of it is because you've been trained to find a problem and solve it. But when you find a problem, you make it bigger. And you've already long ago put the solution into the vortex, and source energy has already solved the problem. But the vibration of the solution and the vibration of the problem are two different frequencies. So is this making some sense to you?
Yeah.
So you're looking for a practical application.
I've been dying to try to ask you this one thing. My experiences from the past, about 30 years ago, I got hit on the head, and it caused an experience for me to experience, which was pure ecstasy. Because I forgot who I was, a living, breathing human being. And it took me a couple years later to realize, once I came out of all this, that I experienced this. And I think I think that has something to do with it.
It does, and this is what it has to do with it. You tasted the sweetness of pure alignment, and you've been mad at every moment that you're not in that ever since. And wouldn't anybody be? Wouldn't anybody be? And then blaming yourself. Can somebody just hit me over the head again? How can I get back to that? But this is what we're talking about here today. How you get back to that is just a little bit at a time, just going a little easier on yourself. And really, now this is a really good time to talk about meditation, because most people really don't get what we mean by it at all. Because you know how we talked about 20 years, you took it 30, but you know what we talked about. So we're talking about the things that you keep updating, that you keep using as your excuse to not go with the flow of who you really are. And most everybody does it to one extent or another. What happens is that as you're observing life experience and then letting what you're observing be the reason for the active vibration, often you pinch yourself off is too strong a word, but you hinder the natural flow of who you are. And so when you realize that your life experience has caused you to become more and that you want to go in the direction of it, then what we're talking about is getting up to speed with who you've become, and nothing else will do. The reason that we talk about meditation is because you've got these beliefs that are in the way. And your beliefs, you didn't make them up. They're based upon experiences that you've lived. And they make sense to you, and you keep renewing them. But the fact is, you have beliefs that are not valid, that are in the way of what is valid. And it's not the easiest thing in the world to sort that out, because there are what you call in your legal terms, there's evidence or circumstantial evidence, or there's peer group pressure, or there's historical data. In other words, there are all kinds of things that don't have anything to do with you that you tend to believe that just are not important or necessary. What we've noticed is that while we can help you bridge those beliefs, in fact, that's some of what the processes of the past life regression and things are about, is people trying to help you bridge beliefs or find a new way of looking at things. But what we've noticed is that, for the most part, when you give your attention to anything, it just causes that belief to dig in a little more. For example, have you ever had the experience where you have a friend or an acquaintance, and you have opposing opinions about something, and both of you visit with each other with the desire and intention of changing the other one's mind and getting them to see your point of view? But have you noticed that usually the more you talk, the more they dig in, the more they do not move in the direction of your much more logical. And so what we want you to realize is that you're doing that to yourself all the time. You're digging in with beliefs that work against your now desires, and it's not necessary that you do that. So that's why we teach meditation, because meditation, all we mean by meditation is giving your brain a break for a minute, suspending the habit of thought about everything, just enough to give you an opportunity to maybe think a different thought. Meditation is just a quieting of the mind, and not for very long every day. Sit for 15 or 20 minutes and you might get 2 or 3 minutes of a quieted mind. And if you do that, good work. When you quiet your mind, that means suspend all thought. And when you suspend all thought, you suspend resistant thought. And when you have suspended resistant thought, your vibration rises, and when your vibration rises, your whole point of attraction changes, which means your experience will change, which means your belief will change. You see what we're getting at? It's the only way really to change a belief, because words don't teach. No one can bring you enough data to really change your mind if you've lived an experience. Are you following all of this? By meditation, we mean quieting your mind. Now, here's the way that we've noticed works the best for you. Sit in a quiet room, be comfortable, be alone if you can, unless you're really compatible with the people that you're with. And as you quiet your mind, just focus upon something that doesn't have much interest. Esther likes to focus on an air conditioner, and often Esther's begun to enjoy the more little things that are going on, like an occasional dog barking, or a rippling of a stream outside, or an airplane flying over, or whatever. The more other things that are going on, the more she enjoys isolating that specific thought, focusing on that specific thing. So even though in the beginning she'll usually be aware of this and that and the other, it's not long before that's what she really hears, and that's all that she really hears. And when that's all that she really hears, now her mind must quiet, because that's not interesting. In other words, she doesn't think, I've heard better. She's not really thinking about that. She's just noticing it. She's just aware of it, which is thinking. But you get what we're talking about? And so in the boredom of the unimportant, whatever it is that she's focused upon, her mind just relaxes, and beliefs that have been active aren't. And her whole point of attraction changes. And hers, yours too, vibration rises. When she's not doing that thing that doesn't let it, her vibration rises until she's vibrationally same as her own inner being. Whew, that is such a nice place to be. Now, at first, no messages from God come booming through. It's not like that. It just feels really satisfying. Don't try to make anything happen with it. Don't try to receive guidance. Don't try to solve problems, because then you're just right back in that place that you were before you sat. Just let your mind relax for a little bit. And as the vibration rises and you become vibrationally equivalent to your inner being, now you're in a different point of attraction. What happens is, even though you can't recognize it that first time or second or third or fourth, or maybe it won't ever be perfectly obvious to you what's happened to your point of attraction, but everything in your experience will change. Your relationship with every person, your relationship with your own body, your relationship with everything changes, because the resistance that you've been dragging around becomes less and less of a factor. So your beliefs begin to change. The mix between you and you begins to shift. And the benefit of it is that, first of all, you feel better more of the time. It's funny, some of our human friends will say to us, all right, well, I'll pay the price of happiness if it'll get me what I want. And we say, happiness is what you want. It is what you want. Everything that everyone wants, no matter what it is, a relationship or an improvement or a material object or a pile of money, everything that you want is because you believe you will feel better in the having of it. And it is the feeling better that we want you to show yourself that you can accomplish within a week or two or three of just giving yourself that 15 or 20 minutes every day. So then what happens is you don't even have to know. You see, that's what you experienced when you got hit on the head. That's another way of going about it. A lobotomy is a third choice.
Then I had depression after that and suicidal. I had depression and suicidal after that. Like, it was really hard to try to stay here because I just wanted to get back to that ecstasy.
Yeah. We understand. Of course you do. Everyone wants that. And what we're saying to you is you can get back there. And the process of appreciation will get you there. But there's too many beliefs that you've got in your way. So every time you try to appreciate something, the other end of it factors in. You've really got to quiet your mind. It's the easy way of going about it. We've written lots of books, and in those books there's lots of processes, and those processes work in many ways, but there is no process that is more effective for raising vibration than quieting your mind during meditation. You can do it. It's an easy thing to do. And the benefit of it will be recognizable right from the start, or nearly so. So when you say, I wanted to return to that, this is a way to return to that. And what is it you're returning to? You're returning to your inner being's knowing of who you are, your inner being's opinion of where you stand, your inner being's understanding of what's going on in the world, your inner being's understanding of how you fit into all of it, you see.